What's up, YouTube? Nicholas back here with another edition of our local crit series, the Music City Crits here in Nashville, Tennessee. This is round 4, and I will say this was probably one of the more interesting races that we've had this year, one of the more frustrating races for me. So join me as we break down this crit. So first and foremost, getting here off to a bang. Started off real quick. We got a Nashville local guy up here and a guy from Automatic. Now, I haven't raced with the guy on the front right now, so he's starting off pretty quick. This is definitely someone that I've got my eye on. We're going 28, 29 right out of the gate, so he's definitely here to race. Immediately gets strung out. So to me, this is something that I want to make a note of. And for anyone racing solo, not on a team, so someone like me, then it is very important to really know who to mark. This is something I spend a lot of time doing. I don't really look at start lists. I'm not really big on that. I don't really like to look at jerseys and really see who's there. I want to see who's really showing up on race day and who's going to be, throwing power out there, who's going to be sending flyers, who is here to race versus who is here to ride. And right out of the gate, coming out here, throwing some power down, spending a lap on the front. We didn't have a preem or anything like that, so he's just going out here. Maybe he's stretching his legs. I'm not sure, but definitely something to watch for. Especially since I haven't raced with him before. So that was really important. Nashville over here pulling up on the front. Zach here, I think it's Zach, and he was animated all race. So kudos to Zach. He was crushing. Really excited to have a good race with him. And so this week we're back again with our 180 turn. It's funny, last week we were supposed to have this, but it actually got rained out. So they brought it back this week. And check this out. This was super important to watch. So Automatic guy's back here in the top 3. I was expecting some other people to start pulling through, and it didn't happen. So this was a very important thing to make note of. We'll see it again here in just a couple minutes. But overall, just kind of a little preview of this race. A lot of people were not wanting to do much. Now, this race was on a Thursday. Normally, the Music City Crits are on Wednesdays, so it definitely created a little bit of a stressor. Before we keep going, watch this. So this guy jumps across the break. These two guys go up the front. This guy keeps going, almost gets there, and he sits up. Super frustrating. A lot of people were doing stuff like this all race long, kind of just leaving me to close the gap here. Again, I'm not on a team, so not really my job, but it is important to note that this early, I don't know this guy's the Automatic guy again, and a Mustang guy. Looks like this is Bratcher up the road. Super strong. The last race we were in, he was actually in our break that lapped the field, so he is strong, someone to watch out for. I don't really like when he goes up the road because I know he can sustain that. So between these two guys, this is something that I'm not ready to risk letting this get away, knowing that people aren't pulling through. And granted, it is early. We're only 3 minutes into this race, but if people are already not pulling through, there's something going on. So following him, again, I'm not trying to be on the front too much here. I ended up doing actually a little bit too much work in this race. So cut ahead a little bit here. Let's keep it going. So a couple guys here. I'm trying to just, stay out of the wind as much as possible, but being solo, you got to make sure you are staying at the front. So I don't want to do too much work. I don't want to be dictating too much this early. We have this guy go again. They're going. Another guy goes. There's 2 up the road now. But now check this out. So I'm boxed in. I can't really do much. Can't really do too much here. JP goes. Another person I'm watching. Looks like one of the Hattie B's guys goes. So there's 4 guys up the road now. Now it's my turn. So I'm going to jump across here. I accelerate pretty hard. Put down, some decent power for me. I'm not a big power guy typically, so I was pretty happy with that. But if you look at the rear view here, people are coming with me. So this was something that I noticed a lot in this race that I had a hard time getting away. I want to talk about that a little bit here with the race being on a Thursday. Definitely had a little bit of a hard time getting away on some of this. Now for me, I'd had a few hard days back to back. I don't typically race these ones like I would a normal, a bigger like national caliber race. I train through them. I don't stop my training or anything for these races. So I'm coming into this race pretty tired. I don't have a lot of pop. I've had a couple pretty hard days at intervals leading into this one. So trying to conserve as much energy as I can. Comes back together, and that was pretty much the whole way this race went is something would go, it would get a half a lap, and it would come back together. It would go, it'd get a couple turns, and it would come back together. And so this guy right here, he's opening some gaps up. This one goes. Now we got a couple guys up the road. I'm gonna let him go until he can't anymore. He's gonna keep it going. I'm not sure what's going on. He's kind of just sitting up. So this was the story of this race right here. People would start to go, they'd accelerate, and they would just not happen. With that being said, though, I don't like these two guys up the road, especially with JP up here. He's one of the guys that I know is very, very strong. His sprint is unreal, so it's not someone that I really want to be, resting too much. I like seeing him take these moves. I like seeing him get off the front. We're only, about a quarter of the way, maybe a little over a quarter of the way through it. So I like seeing him off of here, but I don't want him to get away. So this is someone that I have to get up there. And now at this point, I don't really know, or no, I guess this was the purple guy who was up the road with him. So I'm okay with that, but I don't really want. Oh no, it's not the purple guy. This is actually Zach. So this was definitely a move that I did not want to get away. These are two of the strongest guys in the race. I'm not letting them get away. That being said, we're here. There's people on the wheel. It's back together now. So, well, mostly back together. We got a little bit of a gap here, so it's getting pretty strung out. One thing to note is I don't think that's typical of how this race usually goes. I think these races are usually a little bit more stuck together from what we've seen so far this year. So seeing this and seeing all these gaps open up so aggressively and just kind of sporadically, kind of an interesting dynamic, right? We don't really have people who are seeming like they want to race this race like they normally would. So the dynamic is a little bit weird. We're going through here. So now we have a gap. It's just the three of us. We're still pretty early. We're only 25% into the race. I'm not really ready to stick this one out too much. Zach's been doing some work. He immediately pulls off, and I did not like that. So him and I talked a little bit about this one. No hard feelings. We're totally cool. Nothing but love for Zach. I didn't like that, though. I didn't want him to pull off there. I think he's got more. The second he pulled off after that one, sure, he just did a lap. That to me shows, hey, we're not in this break together. We're not working together yet. I'm not going to work on that, especially as a solo rider. Anyone watching this, if you are solo, keep that in mind. Just because someone says something, hey, you need to pull harder, you need to pull through, if you're solo, not your job. You don't have to do that, especially if it's coming from somebody with a teammate. Zach's got teammates. I don't know how many he had in this race. Pretty much only saw him at the front for the most of this race. But again, if you are by yourself, don't let anyone tell you what you have to do. It's your race. No one has to dictate that race for you. So that breaks back together now. We're going to come back. I'm going to start sitting in. That was a pretty good effort for me to actually just get there in the first place. So sitting in, trying to conserve some energy here. Let it come back together. One thing you'll note on this turn also, gaps open up really, really quickly. So trying to stay close. Trying to stay really close in those here is really important because we don't want to have those gaps open up. But you also have a little bit of flexibility with braking room because a lot of people brake early or they brake too late. We just jumped ahead. We're about halfway through now, so accelerating out of this one. It's starting to get dark, and this was something for me. I don't like riding in the dark. I have a hard time with it just from a visual standpoint, but nothing's really been sticking. We're about halfway through now, and I decided to send one here. I wanted to see what we can do. Got up to about 1,000 watts there, so not the hardest attack, but definitely got something going. Gonna settle into here. It's a little more of a tempo pace. I look back here immediately and I see them chasing. So with that, it shows me that I'm gonna have a hard time getting away on this race. They're not gonna let me go, and so I don't blame them. That's something I didn't want to let people go either. But when I see people start to chase me, there's no sense in me starting to really push the pace if the whole field is just gonna come back together like that. So if that's going to happen, I'm going to sit up, as you just saw. And so we're back together for the most part. It's a little strung out here, but again, if it's this close, I'm not going to push the pace too hard because there's no sense in wasting energy to really do that. So here I'm doing 200 watts, right? We're sitting tight. This turn here, it's a little funky, so I like to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to get out of the way, let people get through here. We do get a gap here, which was kind of interesting. Really was not expecting that. This one caught me off guard a little bit. So started to catch up in here, come into this turn, get back on the wheels here, and the field's kind of letting us go. It's a little funky, but I'm not sold on this one. I don't think this is the move, especially after just seeing how quickly the field got together to bring me back on that flyer. So I look back. These guys say, hey, we've got a gap. We've got a gap. Personally, this wasn't the move for me. Wasn't really feeling this was the good one. We're doing 27 here, so if we were doing like 31, okay, different story. Might be down for that. But at this point, I think at this point in the race, it's going to come back together pretty quickly, as we can see here. So with these kinds of moves, sometimes that does happen. You can get into a move like this, but if it's not the right one, especially again going back to being a solo rider, if it's not the right move and you're in it, that's okay. You don't need to push the pace in every single move. I think that's something that is very important. Now here, check this out. So I'm doing 250 watts and opening a gap. I'm coasting here pretty much. And it's really starting to frustrate me a little bit that I'm having to do that at this stage of the race. We're halfway through, and having to coast, I know something is going on, right? The field is tense. The field is demotivated. They don't want to do much here, but they're also tense enough in the fact that they don't want to let anything go. So a very weird dynamic. I don't think that's a normal dynamic that we really see too much at these races. So I think that probably had something to do with, this race being on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday. It probably kind of messed up with people's training schedules. I know for me, I was not feeling my best by any means. So I have a feeling that's part of it. We skip ahead here. We've got about 10 minutes left, maybe a little bit more right in here. And this is where things really start to get interesting. So coming up here, you'll start to see it. I'll call it out. But at this point, I'm just kind of waiting, right? I'm not really pushing the pace. I don't want to go 10 minutes early. I don't want to throw a 10-minute attack and just cook myself too much. But I also know that something can happen, and it will happen at some point here. So something is going to happen. The field is tense. We're doing 22 miles an hour here. Like, we are going slow. This is a very, very, very slow race. I think this was actually the slowest race we've had all year by quite a lot. But my normalized power was actually one of the higher ones we've had. So it's very surgy. And right here, it's kind of hard to tell in the video, but we have a guy off the front now. And we're still doing 22 miles an hour. So you got JP right behind me. He's moving up. He wants to see what's going on. We're not chasing, though. So this guy's off the front now. He's got a pretty good-sized gap. I don't like that. It's a little too late in the race for that. But at the same time, no panic. Stay calm. We've got a lot of firepower here. This guy is not someone I'm terribly concerned with. He's not really someone I really mark for these kinds of races. So at this point, I'm not stressed yet. But it is something we have to keep in mind. So when someone goes up the road, especially a solo guy, this late into a race or with this much time left into the race, pay attention, but we don't need to panic yet. So no panic button. People are going to start pulling through. This guy goes. A couple guys start to go. So the pace is starting to pick up. All right, we're going to start bringing this guy back. That's what I'm thinking here. Pace is going to go. In good position. One thing you'll notice here, not really drifting back. I think that something is going to happen. We're starting to move a little faster now. What really my thinking is here is that guy off the front is the catalyst for the winning move. So he's going to go. We're going to bring him back. And when we bring him back, that counterattack is going to be the one that really puts the hurt on people. So that's how I'm thinking about things. And that being said, I don't think anyone's really tired at this point in the race either. So because we haven't been going fast, I mean, again, field kind of set up here. We're doing 24. Normally we'd be doing high 20s, not low and mid 20s. So we're still going pretty slow. I think people are either tired or demotivated. So it's a little bit of an interesting dynamic, but move goes here. Time to go. JP's going to go. Who is this guy? Looks like, I'm not sure who this is right in front of me. I can't remember. A little hard to tell. But we are moving. We're moving at a good pace here. Going pretty fast. We're hitting, a little over 30 now. So I'm thinking this is the time to start bringing that guy back off the front. He's got a pretty good gap. So what it actually came out to be, looks like this is Nick. Cool. Yeah, so Nick, definitely someone I trust, and I think the three of us can bring this one back pretty easily. But right here, Nick does not pull through. And so that got me panicked because we've got probably about 4 laps left at this point, 3 laps. And he comes through here, actually pulls through a little bit harder than I thought he would here. That guy's gone though. So at the longest point, he had about a 15, 16 second gap. And what made me a little nervous is 15, 16 seconds. It's a lot, but it's not a ton. It's just enough to where when you're 4 laps to go, which is where I think we're at right now, that's enough to get me a little concerned. So with Nick pulling off right here, really early, not really chasing, to me that's something says okay, we're settling for second place here, right? Someone's gonna do it. Everyone's pointing fingers at each other. To me personally, I'm not here to race for second, so I'm seeing this as okay. It's something's got to happen. Now, I see a gap. So, when the gap opens, they just let me go here. We've got 4 laps. I know what I can do for, 4 or 5 laps in here, so I'm going to go ahead, put my head down, and we're going to see what we can do. So, I'm going. I'm very conscious though of what is going on. Right? I'm really paying attention to who's behind me, where they're coming up, because if they get too close, like they're coming in here, I'm going to start backing it off just a little bit. So, I can see JP's right behind me here. I think that's JP. So we're going to start slowing down a little bit. Not a ton. We still want to keep that pace high. I'm not going to sit up and show that I'm giving up on this chase. But at the same time, I don't want to do this all by myself, because what's going to happen is I'm going to cook myself, I'm going to get countered, and then I'm going to lose this race. And that's not what I want to do. So we want to keep the pace up. We want to keep going fast. And that's what we're going to do. So this point, I'm not pushing super hard, so I'm hoping that these guys will actually catch up, get right on my wheel. You're right there. So I'm thinking they're going to actually get on my wheel and we can start working together. So, does that happen? Unfortunately, it does not. So, I'm still on the front here. I think I'd actually tried to flick him through if I remember correctly. It's hard to tell on this camera, but I can't. But we're not really gaining too much on this guy yet. So, pace stayed pretty steady. I'd flicked through here. That's why I dropped down watts. So I'm thinking we're back together. What's going to happen? So at this point, now I'm really starting to panic because we're not doing anything. To me, this is showing everyone wants to race for second place, right? I pull, put a pretty good dig in there. Nothing happens. I flick through. Still nothing happens. So someone has to bring this back. I look back, there's no Nashville local, there's no Mustangs, nothing is going to happen to bring this back. So I'm not really sure what to do. This is kind of putting me in a weird spot here, but we're getting some help here. So JP comes to the front, super thankful for that, gave me a little bit of a break here. Going through here, and we're going to keep going. He's putting some power in, but really not much. Didn't love that. So what happened now, to me, again, that just solidified here that we're really racing for second place. No one's coming through there. He took, a turn, 2 turns, turn and a half, flicked me back through, which on his part, smart racing. Ballsy racing for sure, though, because he doesn't have any teammates either. He's racing like I am. So if no one goes to bring this back, he's officially racing for second place. Which, if he wants to do that, that's totally cool. It's not what I'm here to do. So, back to the front. I look back and I see they are not going. They open up a gap again. And to me, this is option number 2. So we've got 3 laps left now. I think it's 3 laps now. So now it's like, hey, what are we doing here? If they're going to let a gap open up, I'm okay to keep pushing. I'm still paying attention to where we're going. Because right now, at this point, I'm seeing they're not going to bring this back. So if I don't bring it back, it's not going to come back. I have a gap now, so now it's time to really just try and get myself across this, get all the way up there. If you look down at my heart rate here, I'm at 179. That's way too high for me. I typically have a pretty low heart rate. So if I'm in seeing the 179, 180 there, that's a little bit of cause for me to panic a little bit. But not too much there. That's something that, when you start having these kinds of efforts, like, that's going to happen. one thing I wanted to talk about here at this point, especially while we're getting up here, we pay attention to our power numbers. We pay attention to our heart rate numbers. We see that in training a lot. With that being said, these are not numbers you have to pay attention to and live and die by. So in this case, for example, my heart rate's 183, 184. To me, that would be a panic number. We've got a mile and a half left of this race. So at that point, I don't care what my heart rate is. All I care about is bridging this, getting up here, closing this gap. I can recover after the race. Like, we've got 3 minutes of racing left. We're not so deep into this race, or so early in this race, that I have to recover. It's a Hail Mary pass now, so it's time to really put the hammer down and empty the tank. So as you can see, we're catching him slowly but surely. Hats off to this guy, man. He was off the front for quite a while, put in a pretty good size effort there. Field's starting to come back just a little bit here, so this guy does pull up pretty close, and comes through here, starts pulling, gets there, pulls through, doesn't try to sit on. Now, okay, cool. We're doing 250 watts though, so we're going slow. Not really sure this was. It kind of frustrated me, to be honest. Nothing against him. He was putting a massive effort, obviously, but didn't really help too much. If anything, it kind of made us go a little slower. So, if anything, what I think it's Zach here. What Zach should have done was get on my wheel, say he's here, let's work together, give me a second to recover. Because he basically gave me a chance to recover, and then I'm just going to go again. I don't want him with me. Worst case scenario is to have him on my wheel right here, because now it's going to be a fight for a second. Coming in here, just about catching him, and now I want to catch him before this turn. This is something to me was super important when I make this catch, because I do not want to get stuck behind him in this turn. If I'm stuck behind him, I lose this race 100%. So get through here. We are on the last lap now. This guy's going. He tries to stick on there, tries to jump on there. He had to put in a pretty big power effort to just jump back on there. I don't know if he really saw like how close I was coming into that turn, but I think for him that was probably a little bit of a tactical error to not hold that inside line and really slow me down. So got around him. This is all I got. So we're emptying the tank for this last lap. I'm still paying attention to where people are. I'm very conscious of that. I think that's something that as you race more, I think you just kind of start to learn that. But I also know that if I sit up, they're just going to attack me. So I don't really have much of a choice right now. I hear them going, so I usually try to push as hard as I can here. And it doesn't really do much. So I put some power down, and unfortunately, my putting power down did not do anything. So I was pretty cooked at this point. Honestly, I just wanted to just jump on this wheel and just kind of hang on and see if someone makes an error coming into these last 2 turns. At this point, though, I don't have anything left in the tank. I think I'm pushing as hard as I can, and I'm putting like 0 power down. That's pretty funny. Coming in here, and this Nashville guy actually cut inside a little bit. I was expecting him to stake a little bit wider, but he cut me down and kind of screwed my line up a little bit. And then trying to sprint didn't have much. Got passed at the line. And that right there, guys, that is Music City Crits round 4.